Hello and welcome and hello. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin. This is the Patients First podcast, and I'm so excited that you're here. And today's podcast is brought to you by Tooth Apps Connect. What is Tooth Apps Connect? It is the data control center for your practice or for your organization. Whether you have one practice or 1,000 or 10,000 practices, Tooth Apps Connect connects all of your separate systems into one action center where you get to leverage your data to make more revenue, to provide higher quality care, and of course, to put patients first, which is what it is all about. So check it out. Go to toothapps.com, TOOTHAPPS.com. Thanks again that you're here. Today, we're going to talk about something that has been on the rise in general, but definitely in dentistry, which is the global ransomware attacks, which are at an all-time high. Based on a report from August of 2023, global ransomware attacks are at an all-time high. In fact, they're now called RAS platforms, ransomware as a service. If you are a technology junkie like myself, you probably know what SaaS is, software as a service. A lot of what I do is focused on SaaS platforms in dentistry. How do we provide software as a service so that we can automate things, so that we can leverage the data, like with Tooth Apps, to help you grow your practices, so we can provide better care for patients, so that our talented team members who are so good at seeing patients, giving care on one-on-one human contact. They're not sucked into a computer looking at a screen when that new patient comes in, right? That's SaaS. And and the explosion of these software platforms, which have been a boon for dentistry, and I believe we're right on the precipice of Dental 3.0, which is a whole nother podcast that I did, has led to this inflection point that we are at, where we are now unlocking dentistry. We're going from analog to digital to now connected dentistry, where we're connecting patients to dental practices remotely through remote care, through interoperability, through teledentistry. We're connecting medical care to dental care through the medical dental interchange and interoperability, and however you want to define it. Some people call it the medical dental connection. I like to think that interoperability, having our systems connect, is the first step. The first step to actually creating the medical dental integration. Integration can't happen without interoperability. That's just the way it is, folks. And so connecting those systems, which is a big part of what we do at Tooth Apps, is what it's all about. So that's not the topic of today's podcast, though. Today's topic is all about the rise in global ransomware, to the point where it has a new name: ransomware as a service. There's been a total of 48 separate ransomware groups who have attacked the US, 48 different ones that we know about, which is a 75% increase in the number of monthly attacks in the US between the first and second half of this year. 75% increase. And American companies, government organizations, and healthcare institutions are the most attacked. That means your practice or your practices are the ones who are getting attacked the most. And we know that. We know that. We see it in the dental news all of the time. So if you're a dental practice, if you're a dentist, if you're the CEO of a dental DSO, you know that you're a target. And you've probably already been victim of this, frankly. My practice was as part of the group that it joined right before I stopped being part of the actual day-to-day practice. That organization was hit with a ransomware attack. There's one of you hear about a large group getting attacked every single week, typically, or definitely every month. And it's happening every single week in the US. And you very well may have fallen victim to ransomware attacks. And we've talked about it on this podcast before. However, I thought it's very important to raise the flag up once again, to let people know that there's things you can do. There's things that you can do to protect yourself from ransomware attacks. And it doesn't have to be expensive. For example, at Tooth Apps, part of the Tooth Apps Connect plan, which we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, when you're connecting all of these separate systems into Tooth Apps, what we do is we create some tools that you can leverage your data. For example, a fully integrated calendar. So what does that mean? That means that your that's your Dentrix calendar, that's your personal Apple calendar, that's your son's baseball game calendar, and your recall system calendar, and your HIPAA training and your OSHA training is all in one consolidated place. Fantastic, great. Also, what that means is that if you get hit with a ransomware attack for your practice management software goes down, you can run your practice from your phone, right? So you can give one finger on each hand to the people who are trying to shake you down for money from your ransomware attack. Little vulgar, but it's true. It's happening all the time to dental practices. Protect yourself easily by having duplication of effort, whether that's a full backup, whether it's plugging into Tooth Apps and having your calendar on servers that are 100% servers that are 100% on the Amazon most protected service, so that for Tooth Apps to get a ransomware attack, you would have to be Amazon would be breached, right? So Amazon would have to be breached for Tooth Apps to be breached, which is just not likely to happen, folks, versus your server in your closet. So what does that mean? That means that these attacks are rising. Okay, even if you've laid victim, because most of you have, I would guess, had been victimized by ransomware or by malware or other things. And if you have backups in place, make sure you have good backups. And I would say backups of your backups. If you want to have good backup hygiene, typically what you want to have is 3 separate backups, and at least have those, 2 of those be located in different spots. So if you're using one, and by the way, you have multiple systems, and most of these systems don't talk to each other. So that means that you can't use other systems as your backup unless it is a true backup, or if it's a full interoperability system like Tooth Apps. So that means that your recall system typically doesn't back up all of your information from your practice management software. It really is just a very poor connection that might happen once a day, might happen once every 30 minutes if you're if you have a very progressive platform, or with Tooth Apps, takes less than a second. So my point today is I want you to take a pause, whether you are a dental practice, whether you are the CEO of a dental DSO, and think, do we have our stuff backed up? If we were to have a ransomware attack tomorrow, could we run our practice from our phone immediately? If not, check it out at toothapps.com. And if you're a patient, you'll probably get a letter from your dentist, or maybe you already have, saying, "Oh, your practice was breached. Your information's been leaked." We're getting more used to getting these all the time. But in my practice, which didn't even use the practice management software that was breached when the group was breached, we still, if a dentist or a dental practice that is part of a larger group that gets breached or has a ransomware attack, you have to send a letter to every single patient saying that their information may have been taken out, may have been breached. That your information, your personal health information, your dental record, might be in nefarious hands. And it's not a fun letter to have to send out, nor is it fun for your front office, your business team working the phones at your front desk. They don't want to answer those calls. I can tell you that. It's not a fun day when you have to field those calls. And it's happening with 75% increased frequency on a month to month basis at the end of this year versus at the beginning of this year. So it is too late if you haven't already been proactive about this, but but today is better than tomorrow. So if you don't have this stuff, if you haven't checked the box, if you don't know what you would do to protect your business continuity, to have your practice keep going on and working, flowing well, keeping your practice running. If someone were to open something and you were hit by one of these RAS platforms, ransomware as a service, if you don't know what you do, go to toothapps.com and we can help you figure it out. Thank you very much for listening again to the Patient First podcast. Hope it was effective and helpful. If not, let me know. If so, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. I love hearing your comments, even if you disagree. maybe especially when if you disagree, because I'm wired that way. But look forward to seeing you, of course, next week on the Patient First podcast. Till then, take care.